Welcome to another episode of Empowered. My name is Luis Carlos Estrada. Today I have a very special guest who is my professor, Len Hostetter. To give you a little bit of background, he was a vice president of marketing at FedEx. He also worked at Cadillac, General Motors. And right now, I'm one of his students. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Luis.
So first of all, I thank you for accepting the invitation.
Absolutely. Do anything for you, dude.
For those who are listening, we already recorded back in March 2021. It was the first time that I got to talk to you. But right now, the audio quality is going to be way better because it's in person, and last time it was in Zoom, remember?
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So just to start, I want you to tell me more about your background when it comes into the business world.
Sure. Regarding the business world, of course, like many, I went to college, undergraduate, Lehigh University, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, small private college. Worked for a few years at Cadillac, and then went back full time for my MBA at Harvard.
Yeah.
And then went back to Cadillac and General Motors. And what I found out about myself, like in the MBA program, is I really liked understanding business strategy. And my career goals were absolutely to move up in an organization, into a senior level officer management type position. So the MBA at Harvard really enabled me to think strategically, and I capitalized on that and moved my career forward, and eventually transitioned from General Motors to FedEx, and very proud to be an officer and vice president of marketing at a Fortune 50 company. Great company, great culture. And even now, in my professional career here at NAU, and it's just served me well because here I've been able to bring to the table 30 plus years of work experience, primarily in marketing, but some operations and some sales experience. Harvard MBA, and actually, even while I worked at FedEx and Cadillac, I taught part-time as an adjunct.
As a what?
Adjunct professor, part-time professor.
Okay.
For about a total of 10 years. And I was great. It was great encore. I call it my encore career to be here, to bring all that together, and then to be able to be with great young folks like you.
Thank you.
The old guy that I am. But to just share and talk about what we're talking about here today and share these experiences and a give back, if you will, to younger people who are trying to make their way, and that's what it's all about, and that's why I love my job so much here.
Wait, what you were mentioning about the MBA from Harvard, did FedEx send you to Harvard, or how was that process?
Well, actually, I went to Harvard while I was at Cadillac.
Oh, when you were in Cadillac,
right.
Okay.
So they had what it was called at the time a General Motors Fellowship. And the bottom line is I had to apply for it, and 90 employees throughout the whole corporation, hundreds of thousands of employees were selected. You had to get accepted into one of 12 schools. I applied to Harvard, Northwestern, and Dartmouth. I got into Harvard and Northwestern. I did not get into Dartmouth. I always make a joke because ironically, the one face-to-face interview I had was at Dartmouth. Okay. So I guess I did something wrong. I don't know because I didn't get in there. Okay. And it was a great deal because they paid my whole all my tuition. They gave me a car and they paid me half my salary for 2 years.
Wow.
And then I had a contractual commitment when I graduated to stay with General Motors, Cadillac, at least 2 years, to get their return on investment.
That was a very great deal, right?
That was a terrific deal.
And what would you say that were like the best experiences that you had when you were working at Cadillac?
I think some of the great experiences at Cadillac, and one thing that really benefited me was I really started out at Cadillac in a sales role, a sales organization where I was the guy or the individual that was responsible for a geographic territory, Texas. I had the Cadillac dealers in Texas that I had to call on, make sure that they were ordering cars from the factory, checking their inventory, implementing marketing programs, meeting with customers. So the upside to me there is I really had an understanding of our product and I really had an understanding of our customers.
Okay.
And that was so important when I moved into a marketing position at Cadillac, because I understood the product and I understood the customers, and I wanted to make an impact. And part of it, through my Harvard MBA program, talking about business strategy and how to make impact, I wanted to make sure that our cars had a value proposition that buyers wanted. And I was able to have an impact on that, as a result of my MBA program and really understanding our customers and our products.
Some people say that, or even like millionaires like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, like, oh, we don't hire people because of their educational level.
Right.
But like you have said like before, and I think you mentioned it in the previous episode we recorded, that for you, going to Harvard and getting the MBA was something super important. So why would you say like people like them say that it's not important, but you're the proof that it really helped you in your professional career?
I think it matters what you're going to do. And for me to want to really get my head wrapped around marketing and business strategy, I needed that education. I needed that training. And I'm not, the type of individual, to say, hey, my name is Len Hostetter, I have a Harvard MBA.
Yeah.
Because that gives the Harvard MBA is kind of a bad rap. It's like too much of your ego or whatever wrapped up into it. And I think that, that without that Harvard MBA, I wouldn't have that education to be able to think about business more than marketing, as a business strategy. Because when you become an officer of a Fortune 50 company, you only not have to know your own discipline, but you have to engage and collaborate with other areas of the company. And you have to be able to understand the business strategy, and not only understand it, but define it for the future. What's it going to be as the environment changes around us, customer needs change, and I don't think I could have done that without my Harvard MBA.
Yeah, and after Cadillac is when you started in FedEx, right?
Yeah, I made a couple of transitions after Cadillac. I didn't go right to FedEx. There were a few years in between. Did some other work with Caesars Entertainment, and worked for them, the gaming company, and Thomas & Betts, which has been acquired by ABB out of Sweden, I believe. And then I moved on to FedEx, and that's really, I think, when my career really took off.
Yeah, I can tell that.
Yeah.
And when you were in FedEx, like, how was the process for you to grow within the company?
What I did was, I think it's really important for growth and to be promotable, to demonstrate that you can do more than what your day-to-day job is. And I had two opportunities while at FedEx that really helped to propel me and demonstrate to my leadership team that I had a breadth of capabilities and I was not just marketing. One was our competitor, UPS, was going to go on strike, and I had to do all the strike planning, coordinating with operations, finance, legal, everybody else. And so I kind of stepped away from my day job to do that. And the challenge there is FedEx isn't as big as UPS. So we had to figure a way to prioritize and whose packages were we going to take. And then later on, when FedEx acquired Kinko's, the copy store, we rebranded them now, you may know it as FedEx Office. Well, I had 4 months to get shipping into all like 2,000 FedEx Office locations or Kinko's locations. That was quite an undertaking. And again, I had to collaborate with a lot of different departments. And I think, I believe I should say that being able to demonstrate that and get that done and do it well, people looked at me and said, this guy is somebody who can be an officer of the company and be very promotable.
So what would you say that were some of the most important things that you had to do in order for them to be like, hey, so we want Len to be one of the officers? What were like some of the most important things you accomplished?
Well, I would say that the accomplishments of planning for how we're going to handle package volume in the event of a strike by our largest competitor, successfully getting shipping introduced in all FedEx Office locations, those two things were great accomplishments. In addition, my day-to-day job in marketing and making sure that we were doing campaigns effectively and product introductions and things like that, that all was didn't go away. It had to be done. I had to delegate more. But it really was an opportunity to showcase my leadership skills for the organization and how you empower people, motivate people to get the job done. And I think that those results really spoke to the organization, my leadership, my peers, that this is a great guy for the job. Yeah.
I like that you mentioned the word empowered because it's the name of the podcast, Empowered.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, like, how do you empower yourself when you're passing through something difficult? It doesn't matter if it's personal or if it's business related.
How do I empower myself or empower others?
Yourself.
How do I empower myself?
I can give you an example.
Yeah.
For example, when I was a child that I used to play baseball,
Sure.
some of the things that would empower me the most is being in a super great physical condition.
Okay.
So for example, I would be like, okay, so I need to lose 10 pounds or I need to run like this time.
Right.
So for me, it would be like, okay, so during practices, I'm going to do all of this that it's like physically painful.
Sure.
But during the game, I'm going to feel like super empowered because I can be like more athletic in the field. That's a simple example, I would say.
So I think what empowered me was, really learning. I'll use a business example, but really getting to know and learning different parts of the business that I wasn't familiar with, and taking a genuine interest in building and maintaining relationships with people in different parts of the organization. And that was empowering to me because I felt that I could be a contributor in a very important discussion, even if it was out of the realm of marketing, that I had something to say and people respected what I had to say because I invested the time to get to know people and how our business runs, the operations. And that was empowering to me. And along with that, you just build your confidence. You have greater confidence because you can hold your own in a discussion with people who are in an area that might be different than yours.
Because you're prepared, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's preparation.
You know Derek Jeter, right?
Pardon?
Derek Jeter, you know him,
yeah,
right?
Derek Jeter, yeah.
So one time someone asked Derek Jeter, hey, what is your biggest fear? And he said being unprepared, right? So I think like once you're prepared, like you can like boost your confidence 100%, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that is a great statement because fear does set in when you're unprepared. And I always say to myself, my litmus test is if I have a voice going through my head saying that I'm not quite ready for the meeting or for this, then I know I'm not prepared. That's when I can feel the fear setting in a little bit, like, am I going to get the question that I didn't anticipate? So you have to do your homework, you do have to prepare. And when you are prepared, then the fear kind of goes away because nobody knows it better than you do. If it's something going on in marketing in my shop, nobody should know it better than I. So why should there be fear if I'm prepared?
Yeah.
Yep, great point.
You also mentioned, I don't remember if it was like in one of our one-on-one conversations or in the class, that you used to have weekly meetings with a CEO of FedEx. How were these meetings?
They weren't weekly meetings, but I would have frequent meetings because a lot of times we were doing work that was critical to the company driving revenue. And we would have to provide updates on service performance if a new service was launched or if we were launching a new type of product. So there was a regular exposure to the CEO, and there's a lot of pressure there. And your CEO and your senior executive management have high expectations, and you want to come to what you're talking about prepared, and being able to anticipate the questions, knowing who else is going to be at the meeting, and from other areas and what questions they're going to be asking. So it was a lot of pressure. I enjoyed it. And I really grew from it because I think it made me more of a professional individual having, responsibility and accountability at that senior officer level.
And they had a super like highest standard for you to excel, right?
Absolutely, and I didn't want to embarrass myself, but it's not only myself. If I have a team of 100 people, I don't want my people, I don't want word on the street being like, Len really failed miserably in that meeting or in that presentation. Because that not only reflects on me, but it reflects on my team. So I can't let my team down either. So it's not just about me, but it's being successful for your team as well, so that they feel like, yeah, I'm on the A team. I'm not on some JV team or some B team. I'm on an A team.
Yeah. And when you're, for example, like in these meetings, and you're like, you know that you are, or you were in this case, in charge of all these 75 to 100 employees. How is for you to keep them, or how hard is for you to keep them motivated, inspired? Because, for example, I have been part of like jobs in the previous years where people, they don't feel like that inspired, that motivated, and you can see, for example, when they make excuses all the time. They say, oh, you know what, I can work today because I don't feel good,
right?
Or because, oh, my arm is hurting a little, or I didn't sleep well. It's like, these are excuses that cannot even cross to your mind. It's like, you gotta be committed to your job, because if you cannot do your job that it's easy at that time, it's like, do you think like people are going to trust you to a higher position, right?
Sure.
How was that for you?
Well, I'm not going to say it was easy, but I'm not going to say it was hard either. Because I believe what a good leader does is, a good, strong leader helps the team understand clearly what needs to be done, what needs to be accomplished. You hire the right people on your team so that you can empower them, because they're going to have a lot of great ideas, and they may be closer to the opportunity or the challenge. So you're like a coach to them. Run interference if there's resources that are needed, but you're there for them.
Yeah.
And you coach them for success. And empowering people have to want to be empowered. Some people want to just be told what to do. Yeah. That is not how I operate. That is not the FedEx organization. You're empowered to get your job done, and I'm here to support you. And the other really important factor in terms of the motivation is taking a genuine interest in your employees. And that means you don't just go to an employee when you need something, but you're genuine and authentic in knowing something about them, about personal life, or you build a relationship, a genuine relationship with people. And when your team feels that, and they know that you're vested in their success, and you're trying to help them accomplish their career goals, then the effort and the results follow from that.
Yeah. Another question, moving more like into marketing. What were some of the things that you would consider before implementing a marketing campaign at FedEx?
Well, first and foremost, for the most part, you're going to have to, when you implement a marketing campaign, you're looking for a return on investment. So it's like, if I'm going to spend $1, I'm going to get $5 for every dollar I spend. And you're working with your business partners, finance, who you're accountable to and should be accountable to. Because if you think about it, they could say, well, why spend this dollar if you're not sure we're going to make money on it? Because we could invest it, we could take it to the bottom line as pure profit, right? So when you're getting ready to launch a marketing campaign, it's a little bit like looking into the crystal ball, because you do some research, you have some data, you have to understand who your target market is, be confident in the value proposition that service is going to deliver, and then you're going to gain more customers and hopefully more incremental profitable revenue from it. And then you're accountable, because you have to report your results. How are we doing? And if we're well above plan, great, we hit it out of the park. If we're at plan, it's kind of with a campaign. It's like, okay, what could we do better? Maybe the things that we could tweak now or in the future. And then if you're not making plan, well, then maybe you have to shut down the campaign because you're not making money, or you don't do it again. So you really have to understand your target market, your value proposition to that target market, and do the analysis to be confident that you can say to people, yeah, we're going to get a 5-to-1 return on this investment.
And for example, now that you talk about return on investment, how would you measure that? Because you can say, for example, okay, so I'm going to invest $100 million in this campaign.
Right.
And how would you measure it to make sure like you're getting, let's say, $3 or $5 per dollar spent?
So a more obvious and a simple way to measure return on investment for a campaign is to look at an RDE ratio, revenue to expense. That's the $5 of revenue I'm getting for every dollar of expense, if you will, or investment in the marketing campaign. Well, then you have to ask, well, is it revenue we would have gotten anyway, or is it incremental revenue? And that makes a difference. And you always strive for it to be incremental revenue. In some cases, I'll say like campaigns, especially executed through social media, measurement, or if it's tied to the website, measurement is a lot easier. So what I would say is this. When you look more broadly at what are the right metrics, you have to ask yourself, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to profitably increase revenue? Are we trying to drive brand awareness? Are we trying to improve a customer experience? Or even are we trying to reduce our costs? Are we trying to execute a marketing campaign more efficiently where we can reduce our costs? So it depends upon what you're trying to accomplish with the campaign. That'll drive the types of metrics that you have to identify and be accountable to, for the business.
Yeah. Also, you would be like handling more than or around $350 million.
My budget was anywhere like annually, all up, between $250 and $350 million.
And how was that for you? Because some people are, and that includes me, that sometimes if we see a lot of money, we're like, oh, how are we going to handle it? Or in your case, how was it for you, like being responsible for millions of dollars per year?
It's a lot of pressure because it's a lot of money and you want to do the right thing. You want to be smart about the investments you're making. So, you work hard with your business partners, like in finance, to make sure that the return on investment is going to be there. You do the business case analysis, so you make smart decisions. And I always say, perfect information is hard to come by. So you rely on the data and the research that you have, but then it's a matter of layering onto that judgment and experience from what's worked and what hasn't worked in the past, and that comes with time. So it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, it wasn't like a huge weight. It was like really like an opportunity. Like, wow, I have this treasure trove of money to spend, but you also have accountability that goes with that.
Yeah, for those who are listening, we just finished class and we literally just came from class to here. And in today's class, you were mentioning the examples of this literally when you were at FedEx and you were talking about allocating money to the different like areas that FedEx has, like FedEx Express, FedEx
Ground, freight, because you have to understand where's the growth. What do we need to invest to maintain a baseline? There's lots of considerations that come into play because, you might say there's never enough money to invest. So you have to make some hard trade-offs and hard decisions.
And you mentioned today in class the criteria that you would use.
Yeah, it was how much incremental revenue are we going to get? That's one measure. How is this going to improve a customer experience? How is this going to drive brand awareness? Or how is this going to reduce costs? And what you're asking us to support, can you articulate on those metrics what we would expect to get as an overall return on investment if marketing is spending this money on a campaign, developing a new service, what have you?
Yeah, also I was checking like your resume that you post like in the platform we're using NAU. And you said like one of your strengths is sponsorship strategy and negotiation. And I remember that I think it was last semester when you would be talking in class about partnership or sponsorships with NFL and these like other huge companies. Can you tell me an anecdote about that or something important?
Yeah, I mean, I always try to, there's different strategies for approaching negotiation. I believe a win-win is in everybody's best interest. But not everybody's going to negotiate that way. And I would say there was, we had like the assets you're talking about, NFL, PGA, NASCAR, tennis. And there are times when you and your sponsorship partner may not agree on the valuation of the relationship. And how that manifests itself is it going to be a 4-year contract? I'm just pulling the numbers for example, but is it going to be a 4-year contract where it's going to be $25 million paid over 4 years, 50 million, 10 million? What is it? And it's very, very important to gain agreement on what that number is with your partner. And anecdotally, without calling anything out, what happens, not oftentimes, but sometimes, is you're really far apart on what that valuation is. And then the negotiations get less friendly.
Okay.
Because you're seeing it differently, the way you're measuring it versus how your sponsorship partner is measuring it.
And how would you negotiate these kind of things?
Well, you look to understand why you're evaluating it differently than I. Sometimes you agree to disagree.
I remember last semester when I had Paul Thomas in the podcast, we were talking about negotiations too.
Yeah.
And he told me, if you're selling something, you have like all the reasons why you're worth more. But if you're buying something, you have all the reasons why this product is worth less, right?
Right. And sometimes you have to look for points of leverage. We've been in the relationship a long time. FedEx is a tremendously well-respected brand out there. There's lots of awareness. So you start to look for those leverages, or sometimes maybe you have to change the scope of the relationship to try to get to that middle ground that you can both kind of live in with and not dig your heels in, whether it's 25, you think it's 25 million, we think it's 50 million, or vice versa, whatever it is. You have to kind of work towards that middle ground. And unfortunately, and it never happened on my watch, but sometimes you just have to walk away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If the agreeing to disagree is so strong, you just have to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that you have said you had agreed with, or you had like partnerships as FedEx with NFL and all these important companies or brands, who are the people or the most important people that you have met throughout all of these negotiations and conversations, partnerships?
I don't gauge importance by title.
Okay.
There are people who you presume if they have a big title, or they're up there in an organization.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That they can, that they have an impact. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Is it okay if I answer because the way I would answer this question is I'm hearing the question differently, maybe.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that there's anybody. I could say yes. I've met Tim Tebow. I've met Oprah Winfrey. I can keep Roger Federer. I can keep Peyton Manning. I can keep going with names. Yeah, everybody's like, okay, those people are great. And yes, they had insight and things that impacted me, but I don't necessarily think that those are the people who maybe had the biggest impact on my career.
Yeah.
And really taught me. I would say the person who really, when I look back at my entire career, shout out to my boss, Lori Tucker.
Okay.
Who I worked under or in her organization for many years at FedEx, who really embodied leadership, the principles of leadership. And none of you probably know Lori Tucker, but she's the one who I think really was the biggest influence in terms of helping me to craft my leadership style and what it took to be successful in the organization. And I'll be forever grateful for that. And, I could sit here and say, for example, Oprah Winfrey, who I had champagne breakfast with, myself and 4 members of my team for a couple hours. She is incredibly intelligent, bright, motivating, worldly, all that great stuff. But not the level of impact that you have when you're working for somebody for so many years or with somebody for so many years.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, like the way you see it.
Yeah.
Because like I would say that I had like a different perspective. Because, for example, I have been telling you like, oh, the Yankees or baseball gear, like not in the podcast, but like in our conversations outside the podcast. And for me, for example, last Friday, I got to interview Luis Cruz, and he was the shortstop of the Yankees when Derek Jeter was injured. Like, it was only for 2 months, but he also played with the Dodgers for a while. So he's like a role model for me when it comes to baseball, because I have been playing baseball and following baseball since I was 3. For me, like, it's like, wow, like I can't believe, literally that episode, I was like smiling 100% of the time, because I was like, I can't believe like he's telling me, oh, I got dinner with Derek Jeter, or then Matt Kemp invited me to Hollywood with Rihanna and all these people, and I was like, he's coming literally from the same place as I'm coming from, and it's like, seeing his success in the baseball area is like, for me that's very important.
It's important.
It's the same for you, like what you were saying in FedEx, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, it was important to my success and her. And you know, the thing is too, it makes an interesting point. It's easy for all of us. I don't consider myself to be a starstruck type person. Like, I don't see a celebrity and I'm not like there like ooh ah.
What's that?
Well, in other words, like, I had a number of opportunities where I was with Phil Mickelson, who's a golfer, right? Because of our relationship with the Cup. And a lot of people are like, oh, ah. But the thing is, by my nature, I'm not that way. Okay, I'm just not that way. And the thing that's particularly important when you're talking about sponsorships and these assets, like, and highly visible, NFL, NASCAR, etc., you have to do what's right for the business. And that goes back to when you're negotiating your sponsorship agreement. What are we going to pay for this? And it's good to be very non-emotive about it. You have to be. Because if you're emotive about it, you can be so impassioned about the sport that maybe you're not making the best decision for the business. Because you want to be a part of that sport. And you have to really find this position of neutrality. That's really, really critical.
That makes a lot of sense. Because for me, like as you said, like it would be 100% different if I negotiate something with any company,
right?
And if I negotiate something with MLB or with the Yankees, even like Yankees or any other team, I would be like, if it's the Yankees, it's like, I don't mind if I lose. I just want to be with the Yankees,
right.
So it wouldn't be the right decision for the business.
I get that.
Another question, like I always ask this question to all of my guests: how do you network? What are your strategies when it comes to networking?
Strategies with regards to networking. I think for me, and again, this may not work for other people or if you're in a different industry, but for me, authenticity in terms of the relationships matter. People who you meet, who you naturally have a karma with, you get along with, and you work at maintaining the relationship over time, and you keep in touch. But it's genuine. It's authentic. It's not contrived. You're not making the person feeling like you're using them because you're trying to get yourself somewhere. And I think I do a damn good job, Luis, at maintaining the relationships that I have made. And these days, it could be a text, it could be a phone call, it can be an email, and for nothing that you need anything, but just how you doing. Just to keep in touch and knowing that you're there for them, they're there for you. And I had a hard time networking when I was younger, especially in college as an undergrad and maybe my first year or two out of college in the workspace, because I was more introverted. And I just didn't put myself out there. But then I got more comfortable in my own skin, and I realized that sometimes networking, you do it to get help. You're trying to figure out your career or what your next step is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just took me a little while to figure that out.
That's interesting, like when you say about the long-term relationship, because sometimes even like when it comes to friendships, it's like, oh, I want this person to be my friend because I want to play in this team, for example,
Right.
or stuff like that. But then people realize when you're using them, you know, and like we realize too, like when people are using us, and it's like there's not like a genuine interest.
Right.
So it's more like, I would say, long term is more important because it's like you gotta treat everyone equally because you never know where the life is gonna take you, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Another question that I have is like, what were some of your biggest strengths or most important strengths when you were at FedEx in charge of marketing?
Being a strong leader, motivating your team, empowering people to be their best and to perform. Them putting forward discretionary effort when they had to put in a 50 or 60 hour week because something had to get done, and they do it and they do it well because they like and respect you.
Yeah.
And I would say, and I said this many times, ideally, I think most of us, I want to be both liked and respected because you feel good. That's my nature. Sometimes you have to settle for just being respected.
Which is more important sometimes, right?
Yeah, you may not be liked, but you're respected for what you know. Where you don't want to be in business, in my opinion, is just liked.
Yeah.
Because if you're just liked, chances are there's not a lot of substance there. You don't earn the respect. You might be a nice guy, go have a drink with, whatever, play golf, whatever it is you're going to do. You're liked, you're a nice guy. But you may not have that respect because maybe you just, you're not on your job. You don't know it.
You mentioned this in class the other day.
I did.
When someone said, it's about who you know, and you said, it's not who knows you, because it's like, probably I can know you, but if I know that you're a loser, I'm not gonna...
Well, yeah, who you know is important. But if you're business savvy, the who you know can open doors, things can happen for you. There has to be substance. You have to be able to deliver. You need to know your discipline. You need to know your work. I mean, is it always the case? No. But no, because, and I think it's foolish. But, if a door opens for you, great, but then you have to prove yourself. And I always say, something else that kind of relates to it is, opportunity is the intersection of preparation and luck.
Yeah. You
have to be prepared, and then sometimes it's just lucky, right place, right time. Really.
Throughout the conversations that we have had, like not only in the classroom, but sometimes like just in the hallways, I mean, it's very obvious that you have like a super strong mindset. How do you develop a super strong mindset throughout the years when it comes to overcoming difficulties or passing through hard situations?
I think I reflect, and I look at a past situation, what worked well, what went right, what went wrong, and learn from it. And like I've shared with you all, my students, no textbook, but talking to a lot of people, I've reflected and I've documented, and I call it, the DNA of personal and professional success.
Yeah.
Of what's worked for me, and over 30 plus years, in my career. And I think it's a lot of reflection in terms of what worked and what didn't. And you know what? Not being afraid to throw a bucket of cold water on yourself and admit where your weaknesses are. And for God's sakes, call them weaknesses. Because that's what they are.
They are.
Yeah, they're opportunities for improvement. That's a nice way to say it's a weakness. And know what they are and address them. If they matter, if they make a difference to you, if they're going to be a barrier to in your career, you need to overcome them.
And that's super important what you just said, because during the summer, I would say during the spring semester, I was having a hard time when it comes like emotionally. I was like, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing and stuff.
Right.
And I remember like it was probably like 3 or 4 months that I was like, I'm not in the right place mentally. And I need to talk to someone that I really admire, but someone that is close to me. So I talked to one of my friends, David. And I remember it was like late June when I was like, not anymore. And I called him and I told him, bro, I'm struggling with this, with that. I think that I need to improve like in these areas. And he's like, okay, so we're gonna start. That's what I started waking up like at 5 a.m. to work out, because
Yeah,
that's
you were
something.
talking about that on the way over here.
Yeah, because that's something that he does. And I was like, bro, call me every day at 5 a.m. and I'm gonna make it happen. Because he wakes up at 4:30. He's in New Mexico, so when he calls me, he's already working out,
Right.
and I'm just like waking up.
Right.
And then to make sure that I wouldn't fall asleep, he would be like, "Hey, Luis, wake up," and like.
Yeah.
He was trying to be like hard with me,
Yeah.
and then sometimes I was like, bro, like I feel so tired, like my body, my legs, and then he's like, okay, like you can take a day off, and I was like, bro, you're calling me to motivate me, not to let me know that I can go to bed and
Let
sleep
you
again.
off the hook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another friend that I have that is like, I always mention him in the podcast, Abraham. He told me one time back in 2019 when I just met him that, because I asked him, where should I invest? And he told me, you gotta invest in yourself, and you need to be more marketable. So I want to ask you, what advice do you have for people my age when it comes to becoming more marketable?
To make yourself more marketable. First, you need to know what's your value proposition?
Can you approach more for that camera?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your value proposition? So what are you offering? And if you're a student at NAU, who's your client? Prospective employer, an MBA program that you're trying to get into, whatever you're going to do. Maybe it's yourself. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. So you really need to figure out what it is you want to do and what you have to offer. It's a value proposition. And that's the beauty, and I say to my students all the time, the most important marketing you're ever going to be doing is of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's going to evolve over your career. And you have to invest the time and energy to figure out what it is you want to do and how you're gonna be that value proposition to make yourself appealing to your targeted audience, your employer, your MBA program, whatever it is you want to do.
Will you say that it's completely related to personal branding?
That is personal branding.
That is personal branding?
Yeah, I mean, that is a big part of personal branding. Your personal brand and who you are, and your personal brand will change over time because you're going to grow, you're going to acquire new skills, new interests, experience, confidence, whatever.
Yeah.
So your personal brand's going to change a lot over time. I mean, when I look at when I came out of college and now, my personal brand is dramatically different. Dramatically different. Because, and I've talked about this in class because I've been very open about this, but I really screwed up after college.
Yeah, I
my
remember
first
you
year,
said.
because I didn't take the time to try to figure out what it is I wanted to do. I was afraid to ask for help. I didn't want to network. So I never invested the time to figure out what my value proposition was. And then I hit rock bottom. No offense to anybody who works a retail job.
Yeah.
But 4 years at a private school that my dad paid for, which I felt badly about, and I'm working a minimum wage job 30 plus years ago with a 4-year college education degree. And I just mentally kind of hit this rock bottom and said, I have to figure this out. And it woke me up to say, I have to talk to people. I need to find out what people are doing. I have to really ask myself, what do I think I like?
Yeah.
Will like to do, and got myself on track, thankfully.
And how would you say that, or what were some of the things that you had to work a lot on when it came to your personal branding and finding the tribe that you wanted to follow?
Yes, I had to, I went and I talked to people who were doing jobs that I thought I might like.
Okay.
To figure out, like, I like that, or get outside my head to say, yeah, that's exactly what I thought it is, and I'd love that, or, oh, I thought it was this, but it doesn't sound like what I thought, and stay clear, I don't want to do that. Talking to people and networking, because a friend of my dad's is who got the door open for me at Cadillac.
Okay.
To get me on track. And I prepared really hard for my first interview. I like cars. I like to talk about cars. I thought this is kind of a good fit. It was a training program that would eventually land me in a marketing or sales type of position. And so then I started to gain confidence. And that was really, really important to getting me on track and doing something that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Really
I remember, because I was listening to our episode this weekend, and you said that sports marketing is a super it's super competitive to get to there.
It is.
And you said if you go to an interview, let's say in my case about baseball, let's say with the Yankees or another team, and I cannot show up to the interview, and then they are going to ask me, why do you want to be here? I cannot say, oh, because I love the Yankees, because I love baseball, because I grew up playing baseball. This is not anything that adds value, right?
That's exactly right. And I credit this. There was a manager who worked on my team. She was with FedEx many, many years. We still keep in touch. She's retired. Nancy Altenberg. And she's the one who really opened my eyes to it. And she said, you know, people who are coming in to interview for a job in sports marketing, if you ask the question, why are you interested in sports marketing? And they say, well, because I was a college athlete, or I did this, or I've gone to, a bazillion football games. Interview's over, dude.
Yeah.
Because they're not making the connection. We're investing, pull a number, $25 million in a relationship over a period of time, 4 or 5 years, because we want to grow the business and make money. So I want to hear the candidates say, well, I realize you have FedEx, you have this relationship with the NFL, and here are my ideas on how we can drive revenue, improve the customer experience, lower our costs, grow brand awareness. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So it always ties back to the business. And in my world and what I grew up with, we were always in business to make money.
No one is bigger than the company, right?
Right.
Interesting. Okay, the last question that I have for you is, I love Harvard. I just like the university. I went to Boston this summer.
Yeah.
And literally in my bucket list was like visit Harvard.
Did you go to Harvard Yard?
I was in the Harvard Square.
Harvard Square. Yeah,
oh, is the same one?
No, the Yard is actually on campus. The Square is the business district right around Harvard.
Okay.
So where the subway comes in. Yeah, so you were at Harvard Square.
Okay, yeah, I was there because it was before the Yankees Red Sox game in Fenway.
Yeah, that's the best game to go to.
Yeah, so I just went there like probably for 20 or 30 minutes because the game was about to start.
Right.
So, and I wanted to be on time to the game. We were there, like my friends and I, for 20, 30 minutes, and I really love it. But you were in Harvard, so how was the culture of Harvard, stuff that you like, things that we don't see from the outside that you were able to see from the inside?
About Harvard?
Yeah.
And about the experience? It was really, really competitive. I don't think this is true any longer, but when I was there was a forced grading curve.
For what?
Forced curve for grades.
Okay.
So theoretically, they didn't grade like this, but theoretically, if everybody got an A, the lowest 10% of the A's would fail.
Wow.
And that's the way they weeded out. So we had a class of 810 students, about 800 students. And, probably 5 to 10% of the class, got weeded out. Maybe that's a little high. But it was very competitive. Made some really good friendships there, who people I keep in touch with today, both faculty and, other students that were there when I was there. And, the thing that was the hardest for me at Harvard, and it was a little bit of, I'd say, self-doubt and affected my confidence, is I went there at a time in the mid-'80s when American manufacturing was held up as the poster child of industrial decline in America. We don't do things right. We can't build a quality car. And I was coming from General Motors, and they were paying for it. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't an investment banker. I wasn't consulting. I was coming from dirty smokestack American industry.
Okay.
And I think I lost a little confidence in myself because of that. And, so I kind of had to find myself. I struggled in that regard because I knew I was going to go back into that industry when I got out. So
it was part of that contract, right?
Yeah, I had a contract, for 2 years. Otherwise, I owed them all the money back, So that was difficult. That took a toll on me because I felt, I guess the word is inferior.
Yeah.
I felt a little inferior. So
and it helps when someone feels like that, right?
Yeah, and I had to work hard to do well in the program, and I did well in the program, but it was hard. It was work. I mean, the number's going to be off a little bit, but like in 2 years in all my courses, because it's a total case study, we did like 523 cases in 2 years.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Crazy sick amount, cases, So, but afterwards, in reflecting, I saw, how it benefited me, the competitiveness, finding my grit when I was feeling inferior, what I really learned from the program. So, yeah.
Will you say that everyone who goes to Harvard ended up being super successful or not?
I think that's up to, I can't speak for anybody else because
Yeah.
it depends upon how every individual defines success. If you said, well, money is my God, yeah, there's a lot of successful people that went to Harvard. But maybe that's not it, I had a roommate who had a heart of gold, very philanthropic, very caring, and he ended up after MBA, he went to, he's now a pediatrician. He went back to med school after his MBA. And financially, I haven't talked to him, but I'm sure he's doing well. And success, he realizes, I'm sure, great income, but also this caring and helping, that it was in his DNA.
Yeah.
Being a pediatrician, you get to leverage that. So yeah. So
how do you define success for you?
For me, hey, I won't kid you. I like money. I want to be comfortable. I wouldn't say it's my God. But finding your passion and doing what you love doing, and being able to earn a living at it to whatever level of lifestyle you're comfortable with. And now at this point in my life, being here at NAU, being a professor, and being able to share and give back to students and give them guidance and tell them the pitfalls to look out for that I fell into and how to avoid them and what you should be doing, and throwing the bucket of cold water at them when the bucket of cold water says, wake up, you need to start thinking about this.
Okay.
Well,
I want to thank you for your time and for the episode, but before finishing, something that I always do with my guests before finishing the episode, Luis. I already asked you a lot of questions, so now it's your time to ask me one or two questions. Two questions, we got time.
2 questions.
And if a previous guest asked me this question, you gotta ask me a different one.
I have to ask you a different one?
Yeah.
Okay. What has been you said you've been in the United States now for
5 years.
5 years. What has been the most challenging aspect of being in the United States for you?
They asked me that question last episode.
I did? Okay.
But I'm gonna answer
No, you don't have
to. Okay, another one.
Okay, another one.
I'll answer to you this one after we finish the recording.
All right. So I guess another question might be is, I would like to know, I really think you're a talented guy.
Thank you.
And my peers, my colleagues think that of you too, seriously. Great student, and we talked a little bit about that coming over here. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish with your life?
That was one of the questions that it was super hard to me to answer before. And right now, I think that I have the answer, is working. Okay, first thing is like find a way to stay in the US, working in the sports field.
Okay.
If it's related to baseball, that would be the best job ever.
I know you have a little passion for baseball.
Right?
Yeah.
I already mentioned a lot of baseball things today.
Right.
So if it's something with ESPN or Fox Sports, that would be amazing. NAU has a partnership with ESPN Plus, and I work here in athletics, and my supervisor, one time she connected me to this guy, and that guy connected me with someone from ESPN for a potential internship. But for my path, there were not internships available at that time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay taking classes next semester that are classes that I haven't taken yet and that are not related probably to marketing, so probably something related to management or finance. And then I'm gonna do the MBA, and then I will try to find a way to get into the sports field. I think it was in June or July, I interviewed the broadcaster or the narrator of the Dodgers in Spanish.
Right.
And that was super amazing. And he asked me like, where would you like to work? And I was like, I want to have the same job as you.
Sure.
And I would say something related to that.
Okay. And I have a second question for you.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a bucket of cold water at you. I'm going to play on what we we're talking about here and on the way over here during the podcast. So when you just explain, in terms of what you want your future to look like, what you want to do, throwing the bucket of cold water at you, what do you think is the one single most important thing that you need to improve upon to accomplish what you want to accomplish?
I would say getting rid of my accent in English and feeling more comfortable speaking English.
Okay.
I would say that podcast has helped me a lot. That's what I do, like these episodes in English now. And I think I was telling you the first day of classes, I think, that I go to you and I told you, hey, I want to improve more in myself when it comes to English or something like that. Told you, because I was like, my personality in Spanish is different than my personality in English, and I really like my personality in Spanish, so I'm trying to do my best to turn my personality in Spanish to be in English as well.
Okay, so if I can, a follow-up question.
Okay, yeah,
we're
go for
turning
it.
The tables
go for
here.
it.
So the follow-up question is, what is different? What's like the one or two significant things that how your personality is different when you're speaking Spanish versus speaking English? What would I notice different?
Humor, 100%.
Humor?
Yeah, in Spanish, I'm like way more charismatic. I can always be like joking like with everyone.
Gotcha.
And I feel super comfortable because I know that I can be funny in Spanish.
Right.
Like, not like dirty jokes or anything like that. It's more like having a super going on conversation.
Sure.
And in English, I sometimes try to do it, but sometimes I don't feel that comfortable because I like probably if I translate that humor, it's not gonna work. And for me, being like charismatic helps me a lot when it comes to making connections.
Gotcha.
And in Spanish, it helps a lot.
Yeah. Don't underestimate the amount of charisma that you have speaking English.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
Not to say that you can't improve. Better than I, but don't underestimate it.
Okay.
Because you do not come across as not being charismatic. You come across as being pretty charismatic.
That's cool then.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still like a lot to work on.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you again for the episode.
Thank you, sir.
I really like it.
I loved it, Luis. I appreciate all the questions. It's good.
Thank you. People who are listening, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you really like it, that you learn more about marketing if you're into this path and if you're not, like, you need to find a way to sell yourself. And please don't forget to share it in your Instagram stories. You can find me as @LuisCarlosEstrada and the number 2. And yeah, please share it so we can get to more people and to more listeners. Why not, right?
Right. That's right.
Right. I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye. That was nice.
Did that go well?